the Independent Labour Party quickly developed a large number of local speakers. Many young men, who were nonconformist local preachers, were attracted to the movement by the ethical appeal of socialism. Their experience in speaking was a great help to the party propaganda. The movement was something new in politics. It was politics inspired by idealism and religious fervour. Vocal unions were formed, which accompanied cycling corps into the country at weekends, and audiences were gathered on village greens by the singing of the choirs. Then, short and simple addresses on socialism were given. On their country jaunts, the cyclists distributed leaflets and pasted slips on gates, and sometimes stuck them on cows, bearing such slogans as "Socialism, the hope of the world," and "Workers of the world unite." Sometimes processions were organised in connection with a meeting of more than usual importance addressed by some national speaker. Though the older trade union officials were as bitterly opposed to the new party as the Liberals, there were many of the younger officials of the unions who were ardent supporters of the ILP. They not only worked for the party inside the trade unions, but gave their weekends generously to speaking from the socialist platform. Keir Hardie had always regarded the ILP as preparing the way for a political union of socialists and the trade unions. From the formation of the ILP in 1893, he had worked quietly to that end. By 1899, the time was considered ripe to test the Trade Union Congress on this issue. Accordingly, the following resolution was put down on the agenda of the Congress in the name of the Railway Servants' Union. It is no secret now that the resolution was drafted by Keir Hardie. That this Congress, with a view to securing better representation of the interests of labour in the House of Commons, hereby instructs the Parliamentary Committee to invite the cooperation of all cooperative, socialistic, trade union and other working class organisations to jointly cooperate for the securing of an increased number of Labour members in the next Parliament. This resolution was carried by 546,000 votes to 434,000 against. The majority was small. It will be noted that the terms of the resolution did not mention a separate Labour Party. It left that deliberately vague, but the delegates knew what was behind it. In accordance with the instructions of the Congress, the conference was called, and it met at the Memorial Hall, London, on the 27th of February 1900. The Cooperative Union did not attend, as they had no mandate from the societies to take part in a political conference. The three socialist parties, the ILP, the Fabians and the Social Democratic Federation, were represented. The trades unions had 500,000 represented, which was but a small proportion of the total trade union membership. I was present at the conference representing the ILP. This was the first time I'd come into contact with the trade union leaders. They struck me as being a very common sense lot, probably quite competent at their own job, but hardly the kind of men you would expect to find at the barricades when the social revolution came. John Burns, a delegate of the Engineers Society, made a forceful protest against the narrow and exclusive proposal that working men only could represent the working classes. He was getting tired of working class boots, working class trains, working class houses. The Labour social movement should not be prisoners to class prejudice. There was a good deal of sound sense in these observations, and the conference emphatically rejected the proposal that only working men should be regarded as competent to represent the working class. An attempt was made by the Social Democrats to commit the conference to a declaration that the new party should be based on the recognition of the class war with socialism as its ultimate aim. This was an illustration of the tactlessness of the Social Democrats. At this stage, to commit the trade unions to an extreme socialist programme would have made the cooperation of the bodies represented at the conference impossible. Keir Hardie, with a true appreciation of the situation and of the importance of carrying the trades unions by stages to the ultimate goal, moved on behalf of the ILP an amendment to the effect that the conference approve the formation of a distinct Labour group in Parliament, whose policy must embrace a readiness to cooperate with any party engaged in promoting legislation in the direct interests of Labour, and an equal readiness to oppose any party promoting legislation of an opposite tendency. Keir Hardie's amendment was passed unanimously, but not before John Burns had intervened to tell the conference that such a group of Labour members, as it was proposed to form, already existed. They had not called themselves independent, they had not worn trilby hats and red ties, but they had done the work. It was decided that the name of the new organisation should be the Labour Representation Committee. An executive of 12 was appointed, 7 representing the trade unions, 2 the ILP, 2 the Social Democratic, and 1 the Fabian Society. The large representation of the socialist bodies was an unexpected act of generosity on the part of the trade unions, who had a membership of over 500,000, compared with only 23,000 membership of the 3 socialist societies. The Socialists received further recognition by the appointment of Mr. J. Ramsay MacDonald as Secretary. There was no trade union nominee for the position. The conference did not realise the importance of the position in the hands of an energetic man. It considered the post merely a clerical one. Mr. MacDonald did not so regard it. He saw the possibilities of the new movement and set to work to organise it. The far-sighted promoters of this new body hoped that a Labour Party would grow out of this timid beginning, but the rank and file of the trade unions, and more particularly the leaders, needed a lot of political education before they grasped that possibility. The new movement did not begin auspiciously. At the end of the first year, only 40 trade unions out of about 1,200 then existing had affiliated, with a membership of 353,000. The great organisations of the miners and the textile workers stood aloof, looking on the new movement with suspicion. The first annual conference was held in Manchester in February 1901, and I well remember the feeling of despondency. It looked as if this new effort was going to share the fate of previous attempts to secure direct representation of Labour.